You don't have to be a sports nut to enjoy this one. What's up, everybody? So, this is my review of Elway, the new Netflix documentary that came out late last year. And it tells the story of the legendary NFL quarterback John Elway, who played for the Denver Broncos for, I think it was 16 years. And it's a really insightful documentary, and it sets itself apart from most sports documentaries because I think in this case, one of the things that it does that is unique, and it does it very, very well, is it strikes an interesting balance between his NFL career, which has tons of ups and downs, and it ended in just an absolutely dreamlike way that only very few other professional athletes at that level have a chance to end their career, with the effect of being that kind of a high level athlete and what that does to your family life. And every now and again, a good sports documentary about a specific athlete touches upon that. But I think the way in which it is done in Elway is certainly kind of gets you in the feels. You know, it doesn't get too sappy, but it is very real about the effects of having to perform at the level that he did with all the expectations and responsibility and just workload, and then the toll that it takes on his marriage, on his relationship with his children. But it was a absolutely well done documentary. I'm a big fan of sports documentaries. You know, I think the best one probably is The Last Dance about Michael Jordan, but I put this one pretty up there as well. There's a lot of things in the John Elway lore that I learned that I didn't know before, even though I'm a huge NFL fan. I've been following the NFL since, I was like 11, 12 years old, where I really kind of understood the players and the rules and all that jazz. And then as time went on, I got more into the history of the game. And so much of his early career, especially in the 80s, where I really wasn't paying attention too much, I was probably too busy watching cartoons. But I would learn about these things, how he went to 3 Super Bowls and lost all of them. Yet he was still able to pull out these incredible moments in games like The Drive, which is just a 99-yard drive for a touchdown that won them the game against the Cleveland Browns back in the day. I didn't really pay too much attention until about 92-ish. And then by the time he finally wins 2 championships at the very end of his career, there was part of me that was rooting for him because of what I had learned along the way about his career. And it is true. They use the word these days, generational talent or generational quarterback, a little too loosely in my eyes. He definitely falls into that category. I mean, I never really watched an entire game with the exception of the championship games, the Super Bowls. But there's a difference between watching a highlight reel and to watching an entire game in the regular season, or just how a regular season unfolds. But when you just watch him throw the ball one time, you know that like this guy is special. This guy is different. And just the fact that this was a time when the game was very, very physical, very rough. And the fact that he could play 16 years and not have any huge major injuries is kind of mind-boggling to me, and it's really kind of heartwarming that he was able to fulfill those expectations of being the generational quarterback that he was, destined to be, and what everyone referred to him as. I mean, even though like he was the number 1 draft pick, but he refused to play for the team that drafted him. And there's a great moment that involves that where it was never done before, and it was kind of like taboo and like, how dare you not play for the team that drafted you? Where another legendary quarterback, Terry Bradshaw, who had won all those Super Bowl rings with the Steelers in the 70s, he's being interviewed, and then they ask him about this situation, and he just kind of goes off on John Elway, kind of like, how dare this young punk, buck the system that nobody has ever bucked before. And if you want to do something else, fine, do something else. Don't play in the NFL. We don't need you kind of response. And then you fast forward to Elway's final game in the Super Bowl where he wins, and Terry Bradshaw, who at that point had become a commentator, is the one that presents him with the championship trophy. So I thought that was a nice little full circle moment for the two of those guys. But in general, there's no real sappiness to it. There's a lot of things that I didn't know that was nice to kind of fill in the gaps. Like even though they talk so much about him as a college football player, but I didn't really know that he never won a championship or won a bowl game. But at the time, statistically, he was the best quarterback ever in college football history. At the same time, he was also a great baseball player and was drafted by the Yankees. So here is somebody who's not just a generational quarterback, but he's also probably a generational athlete. And it was really nice to kind of follow that journey from his professional career and his personal life, as I mentioned earlier. I mean, it's really rough to think about how he gave so much of his body, mind, and spirit to play football at a high level at the expense of what we learn later on is his marriage, because his marriage fell apart. And he had a very difficult relationship with his children until his children were probably, I think, were adults at that point. There's a moment where his son says that it wasn't until I think his late 20s that he was able to just be comfortable sitting down and just talking freely with his father, because they had finally built up their relationship to that point. But overall, a great documentary, not a 10-part series like The Last Dance is. It's about an hour and 40 minutes, but it's a great watch. It's entertaining, it's heartfelt, it's informative, and just overall, just incredibly well done. So I highly recommend it. You'll find it on Netflix, as I mentioned previously. If you have seen it, let me know what you think in the comments below. Smash that like button, give me a follow, and I'll see you guys next time.